well, we all. All right. All right. So welcome to Create Uniform. I'm Xuanyuan. And basically, we usually start by sharing some wins from past week. And I'd like to share with you guys my win first this week. Because right now, I don't know if you guys can see it well, but this is where I'm at. Um, I'm actually at the Hostel International, Santa Monica, right now. I'm in Los Angeles. Okay, you can see the Hollywood. Okay, and right now, this is actually one of the best hostels I've ever stayed. It's almost like a hotel with facilities like library. Okay, they also have like a TV room and fantastic view, nice beach. There's the Venus beach out there. So what I'm here for is, remember, we talked about power moves, right, last week, and these are decisions, things, moves you can do relatively easily and within a short time frame. However, it can have a powerful impact to your life, to your trajectory, personally, professionally. So what I realized was that if I'm really serious about our goal, our impossible goal for Ascender to actually incubate 100 in-person uniforms in 3 years, and 10 in within a year, then likely I'll have to find ways to do that. And one of the best ways potentially is to join Strategic Coach 10X program, which is the second level program. It's actually a huge investment on my part, both in time and also money. But I decided to take it, but only last Friday. Okay, so the decision. Well, I kind of sent an inquiry to explore the possibility last Friday. Got a positive response from my program advisor, but still have to sort out a few things. And only I actually hasn't completely fully confirmed the request yet. Okay, but I decided to book the ticket and jump on an airplane on Sunday, and actually flew from Toronto to Los Angeles, entering the U.S. border. And on Monday, yesterday, which I finally fully registered, and basically because of that, I attended my first 10X workshop. Okay, and it's phenomenal. Okay, phenomenal group of people, and excellent coaching. Okay, and actually, I met one of the key person I wanted to meet, someone who actually operate an organic distributor chain in North America. I met this guy called David. He's the, well, to James' question, uh, sorry, his name is David, not John. David actually is the founder of Azure Networks. So they are one of the largest, probably organic distributors in the US and North America. They're already doing, I think, $260 million in revenue, and has a fleet of almost 30 trucks. And they have a client base of active clients that are purchasing regularly organic produce from them in the range of 100,000. All right. So basically, I had a dinner on last night. This is very new stuff. And basically, all right. Can you mute that? So Sahar, please also share the co-host permission with Jane. Sahar, can you hear us? And also please help any member who might be, who might have a, okay, all right. Sahar, can you hear us? Sahar? All right, so Jane, maybe please
Yes,
help.
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. Please help people to mute and also give the co-host permission to both Jane and I. Okay. So all right.
Okay.
Well, that's, I mean, there's some, yeah, and make that a standard practice. All right. So, all right. So thanks. All right. So I'd like to hear some, let me just switch network. Okay, so that's, I guess, a personal wing and power move. Hold on a sec. All right. Okay. So I hope you guys can hear me. Um, that's I think personally for me, that's also a big jump because there's a saying that you don't want to be in the room where you're the smartest person. Okay, that's one thing. And the other thing is you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. They have done studies. This is true, regard whether it's in terms of health, in terms of wealth, your income level, or in terms of, I guess, your thinking and maybe your hobbies. Okay, so be careful and be selective of the people you're actually spending time around with. And I would definitely say that yesterday, attending the 10X workshop for the first time, that was a phenomenal group of people. It takes actually, I think, well, for me, the investment is $25,000 US dollars, okay, per year to actually join into the Strategic Coach 10X program. And you do have to be, invited in a sense, okay, and there's a certain threshold in order to enter. So I guess I just like to share with you guys, I think it's well, I'm fortunate, but so is everyone here in the room today. Okay, that we are at an age at a time when I think it's already started. It's started, yeah. All right, so I think it's the I think it's the just one. I like to just share one more thing before asking people for wins, is that one of the topics from yesterday's workshop, this is very new, okay, is we talk about fear, okay, fear, the topic of fear. And what does fear really mean? Oftentimes, there's fear for us to take actions. There's fear for us to do or not do certain things. But actually, if you can actually understand the nature behind the fear, there are people who are paralyzed by fear, but fear is actually the same physiological response as excitement. Okay. So whether something that scares you in fear or that actually excites you, right, as an opportunity, it's not the situation, but it's rather our interpretation. Okay. When you see things and interpret in a certain way, it becomes fear. It might paralyze you. It might stop you from making actions or making moves. But on the other hand, it can also be, if you've seen that as an opportunity, as an excitement, as a place where you can grow, then if you can be in that state, that position, then you might actually leverage fear to take actions. Okay. So I think this is something actually quite profound, meaning that if you can really understand, even not just fear, but because we could be in fear of losing relation, of losing money, right? Of potentially, losing something that we value or treasure. But a lot of times, if you really reflect back, oftentimes the biggest growth, the biggest upgrade actually comes after we are taking action on the other side of the fear. Okay, so this is, I guess, one of the things I like to share. All right, so let's start maybe by sharing some wins. Okay, so Munaza, are you able to speak? Can you maybe share what's your win for this past week? Monaza, I hope I pronounced your name right. Are you able to unmute and share? Okay, all right. So maybe we can start with Jane. Jane, would you like to share any wins from you this last week? Overall, personal, professional? Hello, Jane?
Hi, everybody. Well, let me share a personal story. I told you already, Xunying, about the Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day for all of you with your mom, the past weekend, if you celebrate that. Some country there are different dates, so depends on where you are from. I don't have my mom around, so instead I celebrate mom-like figures, my aunt and her best friends. So I end up hosting a party for 8 moms plus 2 new who I don't know. They are not just moms, they are actually 30 years plus friendship for my aunt. So I think that's worth celebrating regardless. Okay, so I'm very fortunate to have people like them around me. And yeah, they're just different people. We learn, we enjoy the good time together. So I think that's something that's a win. That's to celebrate.
Okay, thanks, Jane. All right. So I think what Jane is sharing is fantastic because celebrating with mom-like figures, okay, aunts, relatives, friends, right? And I think there's something that one of the things is there's a question, like who do you want to be surrounding yourself? Either at your 80th birthday and also at your deathbed, right? Those are mental exercise you can think about, which actually reveals what's really truly important to us, right? And oftentimes, if you really think deep about that, you'll realize it's not really, your wealth, fame, or money that you actually will care at the end of your life, right? Because it doesn't matter. It matters no more, right? And I think most people, what they care about, at least from what I've learned, is the closest one, right? Your close friends and family members. So relationship, this is actually one of the most important, I think, aspects to our life and existence, right? So this is something oftentimes we kind of neglect, right? Because of whatever work we're pursuing or whatever goals professionally that we're chasing after. But yeah, I think Jane has shown a fantastic example. All right. So, all right. So, Sahar, would you like to share your win from last week? Sahar, are you able to share? Okay. All right. It's fine. Then let's maybe start, okay, with today's coaching. So just last week, by the way, Sahar, please make sure there's a function that if people join, they don't make a noise. Yeah, so there's a function and or you can share the co-host, okay, with us. All right. So basically, the last week I think we talked about the planning for an MVP. Okay, so how you can actually create an MVP, and it was, I think, relevant because just so that for Pure Harvest, our in-house, unicorn project, this is also something we're building at the moment. Okay, so this is actually there's a process to actually how you build and what's called a minimal viable product. And this week, after you actually have a minimal viable product or MVP, the next key thing is about launching your product or service. Okay, so launching essentially means that you make this public, you take it to your audience, and you let them use it, you start to get feedback. Okay, and obviously, depending on whether you are doing a actual product, as in a software, or maybe a service, right? You can actually have there are different ways to actually launch your stuff. And so the first thing about launching, I think, is that you want to be able to launch again and again. Okay, it's not just a one-time event. people might have the misconception that to launch something, it's a serious business. And because of that, you have to well prepare, you have to make it formal, you might have to, make a press release. Okay, you have to get some press reporters to basically share about that, release to the world, etc. But it's actually a misconception because if you really ask yourself, when the Facebook launch, right? When the Google launch, actually nobody know, right? They did not hold any press conference. It wasn't publicly, reported in the media. Actually, no. They simply started to give it away and let their family and friends to use it, right? Until it kind of started to grow from there. So there's also the idea that I want to launch when I'm quote unquote ready. Okay, this actually, I think it's probably one of the biggest hurdle you might want to overcome as an entrepreneur, as a startup founder, or any meaningful project, in that sense. Because remember we talked about fear at the beginning? This is actually fear that is causing us to delay our actions. Okay, we are in fear of embarrassment. We fear quote unquote failure. We fear, if we did not make this well, if we did not, make this right, and people did not like it, we had a bad first time impression, they will never use it. Okay, they will never, we will never take off. And we only have one chance, okay, to make an impression, right? I think that's what a lot of people commonly seem to believe. However, it's never that way, okay? And the reason is that, well, there are different ways to get around that. For example, if you are really fearing to have a bad first-time impression, well, just launch to a smaller audience, right? To your friends or people you trust, who can give you feedback, but also who can give you honest feedback, but also people who care about you, right? So even if you screw up, you can still apologize personally to each one of them, right? So that's one way you can still launch something. But I guess the idea is don't delay and excuse yourself from launching, from actually taking the action to engage with your customer audience in some formal way. And the philosophy YC preaches, which, by the way, resonates a lot with the lean startup concept, is launch early, launch often. Okay, so you want to be able to launch your stuff as early as possible and as often as possible. So this is another idea, is that you don't just launch once, you actually launch again and again and again. In fact, if you combine that with what we talk about the product development cycle, right? Whether you're taking a 2-week cycle, a 1-week cycle, right? Or even, I know for some companies, they even have daily cycles, okay? Meaning that they are releasing new version on a daily basis. This is actually a real story for me. There's a company called Anview, INVU. They were doing 3D avatar chat. Okay, chat, but we're using 3D avatars. I visited the company. Back then, it was only a startup of 5 people in 2004 when I was attending, I think, Game Developers Conference. Okay, so I visited the founder, the office, chat to the people. They even invited, so that was actually here, not far from here, in San Jose. Okay, they were sitting in Silicon Valley, San Jose here. And I visited their office, had a nice chat with the founder. He shared about his vision. And then one of the things that really kind of surprised me or kind of made an impression is that he immediately asked me to just test drive their, their software, Instant Messenger. And they wanted to make sure that I can chat in Chinese without a problem, okay? Because they were doing that in English. And so I got on with their CTO, lead engineer. His name is Eric Rees, okay? And basically, obviously, I tried and the Chinese did not work. So he started to do some fixing on the spot. okay, and made sure that the Chinese, we spent, I think, a couple of hours there, just iterating through. And he made sure that Chinese function chat room message actually works for Enview. And we had a kind of a work session there. All right, so that was very impressive. And they told me that they actually release a new version every couple of days. They just push it to and they're experimenting this new method because they wanted to quickly test and iterate quickly. So they actually release a new software version every 2 or 3 days. So this will be available in their next release. A few years later, I learned of Eric again, although this time he was on stage and speaking, to many thousands of people, even millions actually. And he wrote a book, How the Lean Startup. All right, so if you, by the way, that became a movement, a phenomenon, a really well-known book, Lean Startup, which I also recommend. And the author is Eric Ries, which was the CTO at Andy. All right. So I guess that's just a story to share about, this is how Silicon Valley kind of work. So, all right. So when is the right time to launch? The right time to launch something is today. Okay, it's actually today. And even if you don't have a actual system, you can still launch by whether it's some pictures, right? Some user interface drawing, or even a proposal, right? A concept, a pitch, the slides, right? A slide deck that you can show and share to some people, right? That could be a form of launching as well. All right. So I guess these are just some key concepts. Now, there's also the question of how do you get your first customers? Although we might be thinking that we will at some time have tens of thousands, even millions of clients, okay, and we will have a large system platform with a lot of people, right? In the early initial stage, actually the sales are done on a personal one-to-one basis and done by the founders. Okay, a lot of especially technical founders might dread about doing selling, but it's actually a simple process of 4 stages. Okay, and you can actually execute this pretty scientifically, or I guess methodologically, meaning that it's a step-by-step process. You first start with a customer list, right? Just list out what are some customers potentially for you. You make a contact, by email, linking, whatnot, try to reach out to them. Or if they are friends, maybe through Instant Messenger, right? You then do a demo, okay, a demo presentation. It can be live, it can be virtual, right, online. And then finally, you close the sale. Simply means that you either get them willing to test your stuff or sign up or even pay you, right, for the product or service. And if they can pay, that's actually the most, the biggest, the best indicator that you are creating something of value. All right. Okay. So basically, this is something that you want to keep note, right? Take note of. Now, how do you actually improve this process? And it becomes a process, right? Once you understand, it's just 4 stages: the list, contact, demo, and close. Then you can also start to track what's called conversion rate, which simply means that from one stage to the next, right? What's the percentage of people that actually, go on to the next stage? So for example, if you start with a list of 100 people, right? You might contact them and maybe, able to present to, let's say, 10 of them, right? Which is, a number. And then all of those 10, maybe 2, decide to use your thing. Okay. So you actually have a conversion rate of 10% and then 2%. Okay. So these are, and then the task becomes, how can you improve the conversion rate, right? Maybe start also with a bigger list and then have a higher conversion rate. So those are actually just, simple I mean, sales at some level, it really boils down to this. And initially, also, you don't have to do things that scale. And you want to engage with the clients on a personal level, because one is you can learn through manual effort. You can learn about what their pain point actually is and their feedback, right? So you want to start with this until maybe there's so many clients that manually serving them doesn't work. Then you want to start to rely on some automated systems. So all the early founders, you also have to be the marketeers, the sales of your company, of your project, all the founders. Okay, that's actually the part of it. So yeah, I guess so. There's the famous Collision Brothers method. They are the founders of Stripe. Okay, what they did was they were at YC, so they were doing payment, credit card payment for other starting businesses or entrepreneurs. So all their peers actually were their exact target audience or TAs. So what they did was they would simply ask someone who were learning and working with them at YC, the incubation, and ask them, do you want to take credit card, as a form of payment? And if the answer was yes, they would say, give me your notebook. And they would start to just install Stripe on that notebook. And this is, very, very easy in terms of adoption because the other person only has to say yes, and they can get it all done, all set, okay, by the founders themselves. Okay, so this becomes the Collision installation method. But this also shows you how eager, aggressive, they were trying to acquire early clients, early customers, and get feedback, right? So I think it's a model we can learn from. All right, so for today, the first question related to this is, all right, so do you currently, right, have a customer list? Okay, I think that's the first question we want to ask you. And because we talk about if you actually have a customer list, you can start. What's the number one method that you can start to grow your customer list? Okay, so this is the first question we want to ask today. And I'll give everybody just 1 minute to answer this. All right. So think about whether you currently have a customer list and how can you grow it? Okay. Obviously, you want to know who your customers are. All right, so let's start with 1 minute, just writing down whatever answers, thoughts come to your mind. Okay, let's start.
Maybe I can share someone. Sorry, my voice is still not so
okay.
good.
Yeah, Sahar, no, we're doing the coaching now. So yeah,
Okay,
maybe say
okay.
that. Yeah. Okay, yeah. All right, and please, you can share the co-host, make us also Jane the co-host. All right, thanks. All right, 10 more seconds. Okay, all right. All right, so the next question I want to ask is that what is the main obstacle that you're facing? Okay, or maybe let's change it out a bit. What's the main fear that you face in terms of sales? Okay, is there any person like a who or a technology like a tech that potentially can help? All right. In other words, what's the challenge and fear that we're facing? And can that be resolved by a person or a technology? Okay, I'll also give you 60 seconds to think about this question. All right, so let's start. All right, 10 more seconds. Okay, all right. So let's move on to the next part. All right. So for today, all right. Today on the 10x mindset aspect, we have a topic I personally think it's super important. And this is the topic or the quality called psychological flexibility. Okay. So the idea about psychological flexibility is that oftentimes we do have our energy and attention, right, and focus. And this is where it can either lead us to progress, success, or not, right? It depends, really depends on what we're focusing on. For example, I share the example of fear, right? If you see a challenge and then sense fear, but if you see and interpret that as an opportunity, it might actually excite or motivate you, right? Or turn that into actions. But how you are focusing your attention or interpret the things, that will actually lead to different actions. And we also talk about 10x, right? 10x growth, part of the characteristic is you are no longer doing what you used to do. Because if you really think about like a 10x version of yourself, right, or of whatever project, work, business you're doing, if it's 10x, by definition, it's very different from what you're currently doing, right, in terms of scale, impact, and the things involved. So very likely, 80% of what you're currently doing or the people you're associated with, right, will be different. Okay, this is just by definition, because otherwise it's probably not a growth in the 10x direction, right? And so that also means that 80% of what you're currently doing is noise. It's not something in alignment. It's below the floor of your 10x self, right? So to achieve that, you want to delete things, okay? So you can actually achieve more. So this is actually an important concept because most of the times we are after certain goals, right? But if you are just setting goals, again, the 10x process required or asked us to set a quote unquote impossibly high goal. But you will not have the capacity or even the bandwidth to think or entertain about the impossible goal unless and until you have the space to do it. Okay, I gave a very personal example. It's only because right now I have designed my schedule in such a way, right, that my daytime is literally on schedule. All right. I don't have anything regular meetings or anything regularly I have to do on a weekly or daily basis between 9 a.m. and until let's say 6 p.m. right? Okay, when I start to have dinner. So all my regular work are scheduled, including this coaching call. Okay, it's scheduled between early morning or evening for me. what this actually does to me. Okay, and I wake up early too, right? You guys probably know I wake usually at 5. Right now I'm moving to 4 a.m. Okay, is that I actually create a space for me to really think about what I want to do. So for example, each day after I wake up, there's some morning routine I do. I also ask myself the question, what's the number one thing to do today? All right. All right, there's actually something I'd like to share with you guys. Okay, this is just on this topic, which I have discovered quite helpful. And I hope this can also help you guys, is the idea of a falling domino. You've seen dominoes, right? Dominoes, which are, like things that are set up, right, in parallel to each other. When you push the first domino, when it's all lined up, if you push the first domino, it can fall to the second, the third, and it has a domino effect, right? And what happens is there's also what's called the growing size domino, which is a small domino, a big one, and then bigger. And each one is at least twice the size as the previous one. So there's actually a demonstration that you can start with a really small domino, a very, very small one. But if you actually line up all the dominoes in bigger sizes, then even just pushing the first small domino can trigger the eventual fall of a huge domino. Okay. We probably should want to find a video for this. Yeah, Sahar, if you can find a video, that would be great. All right. That's the falling domino. Yeah, and share with the group. So what this entail is that if you can actually identify and line up all your tasks, your priority, even your impossible goal, right, as the last big piece of the domino. It's impossible, right, to us now because it's so big, so huge, so high up in the sky. But if you really think about, if you can reverse engineer, what's the previous domino before that, and the previous one, and the previous one, that's their impossible goal, right? Well, for us right now, it's to get 100 3% unicorns, right? In 3 years. So that's the impossible goal. So we want to ask, so what's that for 1 year? Well, the answer is 10, right? And I can continue to ask, what's that for a quarter, right? So this is the one thing thinking, which is if I were to achieve my 3-year goal, where should I be in 1 year? And you can then ask, if I were to achieve my 1-year goal, what should I be or do or achieve in the next quarter, right? And then you start from the quarter to the month, to the week, and to the day. So this is actually a series of dominoes, right, that you are lining up in front of you. And this is the beauty of this, is because once you realize and understand this is called the one thing, right, methodology or concept, is that if you can identify even one single task that's the first falling domino for today and try to do it, right? It actually doesn't matter, well, whether you're super successful or not, because if you just even make some small progress towards your next falling domino, it's going to trigger a series of events, right? Start to affect the domino and the next and the next, okay? So this is actually super exciting if you really understand this concept, and also super empowering, right? It means you don't have to do too many things. In fact, even just one tiny small thing today, it might just trigger a huge domino effect down the road. All again, provided everything is aligned well. So, basically, the thing I like to share is that right now you can also use AI. Okay, give the AI, ChatGPT or whatnot, DeepSeek, whatever, what is your impossible goal, right? And what are some milestones? What are your current situation? And you can just ask, what did you do or did not do yesterday? And then just ask the AI, what should be my today's falling domino, the next step? Okay, and you can, for me, I even asked like 3 options. By the way, I did not invent this. I learned this from one of my strategic coach accountability buddies, Marcus. So he's doing that on a daily basis. And just he asked the AI to organize and, offer, let's say, 3 options for the next domino piece. And then he would then apply his judgment. One thing about AI is it's great for giving possibilities, but do not let AI decide for you. Okay, the decision should always come back to you as the human being, because AI can have, smarts, but it may not have the best judgment. And in fact, it might have the wrong judgment. Okay, so we should still maintain the judgment part on us, on the human part. All right, so I guess that's what I have to share. Okay, so and basically you want to be able to actually have space and delete things before you can actually commit. So that's the flexibility part is this. We are actually not fixed, both in terms of our ideas, skill set, or even personality. The second book Dr. Benjamin published was actually called Personality Isn't Permanent. Okay, it's also something that can change over time or contextual in different contexts, like at home, at work, we could be different person. Like for me, example, if I'm in the public, I can be very extrovert, public speaking, networking with people. But at home, I'm actually, I think, a relatively introverted person. Okay. I don't probably not as, speaking a lot, or in certain family situation. All right. So it's actually contextual. Now, okay, so I guess the key idea is that we are actually a container. Okay, we are not something that's fixed. We are a container that can contain different things. And if you can really see that, it's kind of like a vessel, right? You can put water, you can put coffee, you can put milk in it. We can actually contain different things. We are not fixed by our content, but we are just a context, right? We're a container. If you can understand that, and you understand most things in life are fragile, then you could be open to the possibility that we can contain bigger, newer, better stuff, right? In terms of thoughts, in terms of wealth, in terms of, relationship. These are all things that can change for the better. All right, so I guess these are some of the key ideas. So the first step is actually to let go. Okay, you want to let go of things that no longer is in alignment with your higher, self. So I guess the next question is, we want to ask, you want to start with a vision, right? In other words, that could also be your next future self identity. So the question is, in which area has your vision for your future self become more clear, bolder, or stronger? Okay, this is kind of the identity vision question. Okay, so I'll give everybody just 1 minute to answer this. Okay. Where has the vision for your future self becomes more clear, bolder, and stronger? Okay, all right, so 1 minute, let's start. All right, 10 more seconds. Okay, all right. The question that follows is, once we have the vision, right? Then it's about, that's the frame. The second is the floor. Okay, so floor is, again, we can also call our minimum standard, right? So basically, in which areas have your minimum standards increased or you would like to increase? Okay, I'll also give everybody 1 minute. Where, where have you increased your minimum standard or your floor? Okay, and where would you like to increase? Okay, let's start with 1 minute on this. Let's start. Okay, 10 more seconds. All right, okay. All right, so let's start with the sharing part, okay? And we'd like to invite, to do a share. It can either be the answers or in insights, you have or questions you'd like to ask, all right? Okay, so let's start with Kashiba. Say your name, Kashiba. Would you like to share your answers to the questions or any questions you want to ask or insights you have? Kashiba, Kalen.
Yes, sir. It's good evening. Pleasure to meeting you.
Okay, yeah, all right, okay. So go ahead,
Can
yeah,
you hear me?
please. Yeah, please share the, your answers or, if you have any insights or questions.
Yeah, sir. Hello,
Yeah,
sir.
go ahead.
The insights are, I'm going through the course you offer to us for free. I'm going through that. I'm learning some things from there, how to validate the idea, founder market fit, and my about mindset, etc. of things. It is helping me also. I'm working on few startup ideas, but in my journey, the struggle was to finalizing the idea. I'm facing the problem is where how to finalize the idea. I have developed my own framework of validating idea. I'm validating the ideas, but I'm struggling to validate the idea fully. And I for that I network few individuals who are expert in this as mentors. I network many mentors in LinkedIn. I contacted them. They shared few methods to do that, and I'm doing that. I'm going forward. This is about me and where I am.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right. So I guess what I heard from you is that you do have many startup ideas. That you have the question or the challenge now of how to finalize that, right? You also reach out to many mentors on LinkedIn, which is your current
Yeah,
process
yeah.
or actions. Is that right? Okay. So yeah, thanks for sharing. All right. So I guess I want to ask you first, what about your vision, right? Or your frame? For example, where would you like to see yourself in 3 years? Has it become clearer, bolder, or stronger?
Yes, both of
Yeah, okay,
three
all
of
right.
them.
So all right. So can you share where you would like to be in 3 years?
In 3 years, I want to be. I have to make it different from starting my building my company in the economy, the world, creating a different positive impact, and creating a profitable and sustainable companies.
Okay, okay. So you will have a profitable and successful company, right? This is I guess, the vision, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously from our perspective, would like to ask you to also 10x that. Okay. So is that, by the way, is that something you know how to do now, or it seems impossible for you to have your own company?
Currently, I'm at intermediate stage that developing. I have to finalize the idea and do the stuff what it
Okay,
takes.
I see. Okay. So right now it seems kind of possible, right? I mean, you do
Yes.
have some ideas. All right. So I guess the first thing I'd like to ask you is if you were to 10x, right, that current vision of yours, what might that look like?
It's look
And it
like
may not be in quantity, it could also be in quality. Okay. What
Yeah.
does it look like?
it looks like it's a 10x goal. Is my future self is unlimited lifetime goal was creating a group of companies, a big group of companies, a big great group of companies which created a big impact in economy in world
I see.
and create
Excellent. Okay. Okay. All right. So, Kashiva, I think, is that your name? Kashava? Sorry, Kashava?
Keshava.
All right,
Yeah,
Kashava.
yes.
Okay. Yeah. So Kashava, basically what happens is I think you already have the idea of a group of companies, right? As your 10x vision, right?
Yes.
So this is great because then you can actually start by thinking about how can I create a group of companies as opposed to just one or two companies, right?
Yes.
So already, if you use that as your filter, right, for whatever activities you're currently doing, okay, then you probably will be a better start than most other people. All right, do you see what I'm saying? Because
Yes, sir.
everyone has a different goal. So there's also no need to compare yourself with anybody else because you are a unique individual and you have a unique vision, right? So likely, and because you have unique capability, right, unique ability, you will obviously develop a unique solution, which is different from everybody else. Okay, so it's important to actually leverage, from that perspective and your unique strength, right? So you talk about you have a hard time finalizing idea. Maybe that's a filter you can start to apply. For example, is this idea going to get me to the many group of companies, a group of companies that I want to have, at let's say, in 10 years, right? That's kind of one thing you can think about. And I guess the more clear, right, about and try to do that on a daily basis. The more clear you have about your future self identity, right? For example, like for Ascender, we are clear about there are 3 areas we want to be a part of: global collaboration, sustainable wealth, and peaceful diet, right? So for example, we probably will not sponsor a company that promotes meat production or refinement or shrimp or seafood for that matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that cuts off, even if it's a great business opportunity, even if it's profitable, right? Even if the founders are fantastic, right? It may not be someone or some enterprise we want to support, right? Because it's against our principle of a peaceful diet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to set up your own criteria for that as well. Okay, the stronger, the bigger, the clearer, the better. Okay, so I guess that's the first feedback. This is something you can think about. Now, the other things I want to ask you is, so what areas have your floor or minimum standards increased? Can you share about that?
Wait a minute.
No, I mean, do you understand the concept of floor, or minimum standard?
Yeah. Setting
Okay.
a minimum standards.
Exactly. So where has your floor been raised, right? Level. For example, for me, I have improved my sleep in terms of both the time and also when I go to bed. Okay, I have raised my minimum standard right now, no more than
Okay.
10 p.m. Okay, I I mean, unless it's a, you know, like I'm flying to Los Angeles. I had little speed lead in the last few days, but this is extreme, right? I'm attending this 10x workshop here. So yeah, but otherwise, you know, I sleep before 10, right? Okay, so where have your minimum standard risen? Or you like to raise?
Yeah, I want to raise my minimum standard. I'm working. I'm daily. I work on these ideas. I spend I plan a particular time. I prioritize this for this working on the startup ideas. I have to more focus. I have to network few peers working on this
Okay, great.
and
So
focus on 100%.
okay, great, excellent. And
I have other priorities also, sir.
okay,
not only
great.
this.
Okay, all right. So I guess the question, the reason why I asked, okay, so it seems like you have reserved time for this, right? For your startup idea, right? Which is excellent. Okay. I hope it's in the morning too. Okay, that's also oftentimes when we're most effective. But anyway, if you can allocate a specific time for this, that's, you know, that's already, you know, really great. But I'd like to ask you, what would be the next level of minimum standard, right? To raise it even further, so you can say even more things, more no to things or people. What's like the next bar, right? You like to raise it. What might that be?
Next stage was making better myself, day by day.
Okay, make what yourself
Better
better?
myself,
Okay, in what
which
aspect?
takes me, yeah,
In what?
in what as
in which
in all
aspect?
the aspects, in all the aspects which push myself to my dream, to achieve my goal, which
Okay, all right. So you want to do some self-improvement, right? Okay, to push yourself. All right. So I guess, is there any feedback from the audience, okay, that would like to provide feedback to Kashiva? I asked some questions, right? What is the vision, you know, the frame, what's the floor, the minimum standard? Anyone from the audience or from the participants would like to feedback? Or maybe ask Kashiva a question. This is a mastermind, so, you know, the more brains, the better. We're all here to learn. Does Yok, do you have any questions for the Kashiva or feedback for him? Yok? YP? Okay, how about Jane? Do you have any?
I think it's great, Kashiva. You have multiple ideas for your startup, right? And then you seem to already practice the learning here. I would suggest, right, among all the ideas you have a hard time to decide, choose one, right? Rank them by the criteria, what's important to you, whether whatever that is, whether it's income, whether it's fulfillment, whether it's family, whether it's anything, right? And then you can have almost like a scorecard approach, and then get to the number one, number two. It may not be the best answer, or you are not sure, but at least that's one answer, right? Start with there, and then go from there, because that's how you actually know, right? To get the feedback, to really feel how it will look like.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Jane. I'd like to add to that, you can use AI as well. Okay, leverage AI massively. All right. Because this is something, sometimes when you don't have the ideas, you can ask AI to give you options. Remember, always make the final call yourself. Okay. You want to have AI as your, you know, brainstorming partner, but make the last call, the judgment yourself. All right. Okay. So I guess my feedback to you, okay, very simply, is that you want to raise up your minimum standard for your time first. Entrepreneur, well, Dan Sullivan actually tells the first freedom is time freedom, freedom of time. If you don't have the freedom of time, you will not be able to get the other freedom, the freedom of money, freedom of relation, and the freedom of purpose. Okay. So controlling your own time is actually one of the most important aspect and important skill set you want to master, as an entrepreneur. All right. And what that means is that this is why I ask you, what is your level of floor? You want to improve yourself. This is actually, a goal. Okay. And it's not actually a minimum standard, right? You want to think about what are your minimum standard you want to raise up. And the other thing I like to share is willpower doesn't work. Okay, willpower doesn't work. That's Dr. Ben Hardy's first book, actually. If you try to do things by willpower, likely you will, not make progress or quote unquote fail very easily, because we are all impacted by our environment. You want to create or choose environment. For example, you made a fantastic choice, okay, out of all the people, to attend the coaching call today, live. Okay, this is actually an environment. I would also even argue it's a protected environment, and it's a very special environment. If you can get into this environment on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, and also, listening to the Create Unicorn course on a daily basis, that is an environment. Does it make sense?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And you also want to have accountability partners, the who's to help you, so that your progress becomes something the environment pulls you towards. There's a distinction between you are pushing towards your goal, which requires a lot of effort, versus your goal is pulling you towards that. Okay, because it's a vision you really, really like to have, right? You felt strongly about as a person, aligned with your value system, right? Or simply because you have a lot of collaborators, peers. I'll share one example with you. Earlier in the call, I shared that I am attending 10X, right? Strategic Coach. I just decided to join last Friday. And I'm already meeting a ecosystem partner, quote unquote, that I wanted to meet for North America. It's David, he's Azure Networks, operating one of the largest North American organic chains, $260 million in annual revenue, 26 trucks, okay, 100,000 customers, okay. So I had a dinner with him, one-to-one dinner for several hours yesterday, deep dive into, what he's doing and our idea at Pure Harvest. And one of the things he shared with me was a few years ago, actually he was in Strategic Coach 10 years ago, and he left. I asked him, why did he left? Why did he leave? He said that because he thought he was done, okay? Because at that point they faced some challenges. Basically they were losing clients. Their trucks weren't full. He was losing money on every truck that he ships. And he merely, was near bankruptcy. He didn't have money. So he was even delaying the payments to his suppliers. Okay. And also even his clients actually gave him money. Okay. Like $1,000, not much, but there's probably like 100 people giving him, the company, $1,000 each. Okay. So they could sustain through that very difficult period. Okay. And one of the things that kind of sustained him through in that period, and also why he wakes up each day, is because he was providing nutritious, fresh, and healthy food for these families. And many times when he go to some event, a trade show or a speaking engagement, there will be people coming to him and telling him their stories about, because they have Azure Networks organic food, right, for the family, their health has improved. Okay, maybe some lives were even saved. Okay, so, he felt his work was very, very meaningful. He used to be a farmer, right? 30 years, I mean, actually their organic practice started with his father 50 years ago, okay, because he was also a very special child. He was allergic to meat and to a lot of the different meats, and also dairy, milk products. So he almost wouldn't survive at birth. And so his family had to change diet for him. Okay, and that's how they got into the organic business. And I guess what I'm trying to share is that you want to know about your why, right? Your why you are doing this, what is the purpose, and what is something that gets you in the morning. And once that becomes clear, right, you then would have, I think, a better direction to think about, right, how you can actually raise things up. And yeah, so I guess I hope that helps. Okay, is that create or choose an environment that's conductive, productive to propel you towards your goal rather than pulling you. I mean, sorry, holding you towards rather than you have to push it forward. All right. Kashava, does that make sense?
Yeah, sir. Yeah, sir.
Okay.
I
Okay.
have a question. I have a question for you.
Okay. Sure. Go ahead.
So, give me some examples of raising the standards, minimum raising the floor. In my point of view.
What's the question? What are some examples of raising floor? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So a floor is simply something you say no to, right? So for example, if I don't know, are you still a student or you're working already?
Yeah. Students still.
Okay, all right. So probably as a student, you probably have a lot of options, right? Probably a lot of, for example, like social media, right? Or like reading news that you can do nothing about, right? I don't know how much time you're spending on those things, but for me personally, I haven't been watching news for a long time, like many years. Okay, I just don't pay attention to any of the new stuff. Okay, that's kind of one example of the floor I'm setting for myself. So actually, I also don't do social media. Like I only go to Facebook when I post something. Okay, I actually don't really like spend time on that. I know there's a guy, Chad, who's actually featured in the 10X book, right? In all of Dan's book. He's also, he's like close to a billionaire now. He has his own private jet. Chad actually doesn't even watch movies. Now that may be a bit extreme, okay, but I just like you to know that, like he doesn't watch movies, like at all, okay. Like he focuses energy and time in real life stuff. He doesn't watch movies. I mean, that's obviously it's a personal choice. I think movies are fantastic. I do watch them from time to time. But again, it's very personal. Okay. But because of that, like when his family or his wife is talking about like the latest, maybe the show Netflix or whatnot, like he cannot participate because he has no idea what they're talking about. Kashava, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, is that more clear now to you?
Yeah.
Or for example, like I decided a while ago, for my family members, if we are getting into a negative argument, right, of negative emotion, kind of an emotional fight, right? That is not something I want to participate. Okay, I will either stop saying things, maybe just simply listen, or I even will just walk away. Okay, does that make sense?
Setting a boundaries.
Exactly. Yeah. So those are examples of floor. And oh well, God knows, like how much time I have saved because I have decided to raise up my floor. Right? Those are a valuable time you can spend more productively, right? Whether learning, whether thinking about your startup idea, right, or working on it, right? Getting up a client list and make calls, right? So, or like for me, a sign up for Strategic Coach 10X, right? That's a power move. Just happened. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense? Is that more clear to you now?
Yeah,
in
yeah,
terms of the
you let me
concept?
know.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you now have a better understanding of the floor, right? And how to
Yeah.
set them, right? Obviously, there's personal floor, there's also work floor, right? Right? Like you might have friends who are, inviting you to maybe have a drink, right? Right? But you might want to think twice, right? Whether that's helpful for your group of companies, right? Or not, right? All right, so let's wrap up, okay? So again, how we like to do this is ask you to spend 1 minute. I have put in the chat this feedback form. Just write down what's the biggest takeaway for today, and also what is your next action. Okay, so let's start with 1 minute. All right, let's start.
Hello, sir.
Yes, write down, okay, in the chat room, there's a link. Yeah, please write down what is the biggest takeaway and your action. Next
Yeah, okay,
section.
sir. But yeah, the last question, sir.
Oh, okay, well, I'll do that after, okay, after the feedback. Okay, 10 more seconds. All right, okay. So maybe you'd like to invite some share of today's learning, okay, and also action. So Kashava, would you like to start first? And you can ask your question then. Okay, so what's your biggest takeaway for today?
They learned some things about raising minimum flow, minimum standards, and about and the Jane ma'am also suggest me that rank the ideas and by and using the technologies to your work also by using AI and about
Okay.
environment
All right,
and the
excellent, excellent.
vision.
What's your next action? What's one
Next
action
action,
that you want to do next? Yeah.
I have to plan my week and day by day,
Okay, okay,
prioritize and work on
okay.
them. Prioritize,
Excellent.
prioritize.
Okay, okay. All right, great, great. All right. So build out a plan and then execute daily, right? Okay, good, good. All right. So we'll love to hear your update and progress, in the future. All right. Okay, so maybe we can invite for one more share. What's the I guess the takeaway and then next action for today? Anyone? Jane, would you like to share? Or okay, Yoke is Yoke. Would you like to share? All right. So okay, so maybe let's wrap up. Okay. I think today it's sorry, I think Sahar, you want to share something, right? The okay. All right, yeah, go ahead.
You wanted me to share which part?
Yeah, what's the today's takeaway? Okay. You can share, yeah.
Maybe to concern about the work and choose my clients or my customer. Maybe
Okay.
because I believe the potential customer of my project maybe because will be a restaurant, so the potential customer will be all the people from all the ages and backgrounds. My fear will be the restaurant might not succeed. I may not make a profit, and I could lose my money. Maybe that's part to what I concern about it.
I see. So what's your next action? Great.
My next action to research for a partner, maybe a friend or someone from the family or something like this.
Okay, all right. So basically get a who, right? Try to get a who to propel you, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's great. I mean, you have identified your fear, right? I think that's super important. But remember, the other side of fear, actually fear is opportunity. It's excitement. Okay, it's how you
Yeah.
interpreted that. And it's our growth, right? Don't let fear make you not take action. Right? I guess that's the lesson. And if you're finding a great who, I think that's all the better. You know, best if the who require no salary and can even get you money or get you funding. That's the best who. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So try to find a family or a friend, right, who can be that who. All right.
Yeah.
So
Who
because
is very
maybe,
important.
yeah, maybe your unique ability is not money, right? If your strength is not money, then you want to find someone whose strength is money or funding. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Basically, you want to collaborate based on your strength, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks everyone. Okay. I hope this has been helpful and useful for you all. Okay. And with the goal, I still like to state that we are here to incubate 1,000 3% impact uniforms, in the next 20 years. And I truly believe and, wish that I will see many of you to become that 3% unicorn. Okay. Especially right now, if you're paying attention, you're spending time, right? You're devoting your life to this. Because, it's only after attending, well, just like to share with you, like everyone who has heard of Ascender at the 10X event yesterday or these couple of days, like they all thought this is so amazing. Now you have to understand, these are very accomplished entrepreneurs. They have businesses that are doing the millions, the tens of millions. I don't know, maybe there are some that's doing probably tens of millions in that range, like, I mean, David, their business is doing $260 million in revenue, in annual revenue, right? And yeah, I think being recognized by them, I think I felt quite honored, and also even a deeper sense of responsibility, okay, and obligation, right? This is kind of why I joined and kind of pull me forward. I mean, Ascender will continue, right? You guys are already the 5th batch, right? This will be our 5th demo day, actually, at the end of June. And, I have high hopes for you, all right? And and you don't have to compare yourself, or we don't have to compare ourselves with any others, because we have a very specific mission and purpose here. And I do believe that we also have the best methodology that's out there. Okay. I'm actually more and more confident as I speak to more entrepreneurs, because we're doing something very, very unique. You guys may not realize, but fully remote and then coached. And then in fact, we will be discussing with Karthik about how we can actually get funding for this. The Ascender's 3 pillar, remote, coach, and funding. Once these 3 legs, 3 pillars are all established, it's going to be a very powerful flywheel. Okay, that's going to attract even more and more people to come and join and to participate. So, and we have a lot of powerful partners, that's right now building up. So, yeah, stay on. Okay, continue, stay on, and watch, and not just watch, participate. Be an active participant and a player. All right. Okay, so best wishes. Okay, so that's it for today. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay, so Sahar, you can close the session now. Just close it, just shut it down, okay?